Shalom everyone. Parashat Ki-Teitzei Tafshin Pei Vav. Parashat Ki-Teitzei opens and closes with matters of war, and in the middle of the parasha we find a special passage about the military camp. When you go out and camp against your enemies, you shall guard yourself from every evil thing. Why? Because Hashem walks among your camp, and the divine presence dwells within our military camp, and Hashem saves you and delivers your enemies into your hands. And he shall not see an unclean thing among you and turn away from you. In other words, the military camp must not only be strong, but also holy. We need the divine presence to be with us in war, giving us the strength to defeat our enemies, and we must not do things that will cause the divine presence to depart from our camp. The passage itself deals with several specific laws, but the principle is broader. Elsewhere in the Torah, we learn about other things that drive the divine force, divine presence away from us, including the three cardinal sins: idolatry, sexual immorality, and bloodshed. Bloodshed? How can we win a war without shedding the blood of the enemy? Clearly, an army must kill enemies in war. But if an army sheds blood unjustly, that too can drive away the divine presence. Then Hashem turns away from you, and we cannot win the war. The Torah itself is teaching us that ignoring moral limits in war can, among other things, undermine our ability to win a war. This is very complex. On the one hand, we must be strong and defeat the enemy. On the other hand, even in war, we must maintain boundaries so that our military camp remains a place where the divine presence can dwell and Hashem will help us. And whenever something is complex, there is always a temptation to go to one extreme or the other. Some people are uncomfortable with complexity because in every complex situation, they see the less important considerations in their eyes interfering with the considerations that matter more to them. This is true in countless areas, but let's focus on the issue before us. At one extreme, there are those for whom the purity of arms is extremely important, and rightly so, but they go to the extreme that we should almost never use any military force. We can only, for instance, fire back after we've already been fired at. This approach can undermine our military capability. At the other extreme, there are those who don't want the moral considerations to get in the way of victory. They want to use military force in a sweeping and ruthless way without clear limits. And the point I want to emphasize today is that these two extremes reinforce one another. The more the moral positions become so extreme that it almost presents the use of force altogether, the more it causes the other side to see every moral consideration as a sign of weakness and to reject it automatically. And it works the other way as well. The more the use of force becomes unlimited, the more it causes the other side to see every use of military force as immoral and to reject it in advance, even military force that is justified and necessary. Don't let the extremes destroy us. Both extremes undermine our ability to fight and to win a war. We must have a military camp in which Hashem tells us, until universal peace arrives, there are times when we must fight and win the war. But we must also have a military camp in which Hashem walks amongst us, reminding us that one of the conditions for the divine presence to remain among us and help us is that we set limits on the use of military force. So how do we live with this complexity? I think we need two things. One is we need to establish a legitimate space for disagreement. We must be able to debate the precise degree of force and what the limits are, and not to think that there is no room for disagreement and discussion and reaching joint decisions. And two, we need to accept the very existence of disagreement within that space. We should not automatically dismiss someone who we believe goes too far in demanding limits on military force by saying that his morality is un-Jewish or that he is simply weak. We should consider what he's saying, discuss it with him. And on the other hand, we should not automatically equate someone whom we believe is using excessive force with someone who has no moral limits whatsoever. Yes, at the extremes, things are clearer. At either extreme. No, complexity is not a compromise. Complexity is the harder path. The path of taking all the issues, all the considerations into account and weighing them against one another, and only in this way can we maintain a military camp that is both strong and moral and worthy of having the divine presence dwell amongst us and help us in times of war. Shabbat Shalom.